They say the quietest places hide the fiercest battles. Well, mine began before sunrise on a Saturday, when an insistent knock shattered the calm of my newly acquired countryside retreat. I swung open the door, still clutching my half-packed coffee mug, expecting a friendly face or a helpful neighbor. Instead, two uniformed police officers stood on my porch, their cruisers idling below with red and blue lights pulsing silently. Behind them, Linda Marshall, self-appointed queen of Crestview Heights, loomed with a clipboard in one hand and disdain in her eyes. "There he is," she bellowed. "That's the man I complained about, the barn repair rebel." My heart skipped as the taller officer's hand hovered near his belt. "Sir," he said, voice measured, "we've had complaints about unauthorized construction. We need to see proof you own this property." That's when I realized I was in for a fight, and not just over boards and shingles. Inheriting the legacy, it all started when I decided to restore my great-grandfather's 150-year-old barn. The rickety structure had stood on our family land for generations, a silent testament to hard work in simpler times. I hadn't planned to turn it into a luxury retreat or a fancy barn venue, just to replace the rotten beams, patch the leaky roof, and repaint the faded siding so the old place didn't collapse under the next storm. When I bought the adjoining farmhouse a month ago, I've been driven by a deep sense of legacy. My name is Ethan Carter, and at 27, I'd scraped together every dime as a freelance graphic designer to buy my first home debt-free. The chance to fix up that barn felt like repaying a family debt, breathing life back into a structure that anchored our roots here. A welcome authority the Monday after I started work. I rolled up in my pickup at dawn, ready to spend the day on the roof. That's when Linda showed up. She marched down the gravel lane from her modern McMansion next door, hair in a tight ponytail, clipboard swinging like a battle standard. "You can't do that without HOA approval," she barked, pointing at my hammer as though it were dynamite. I wiped my brow and tried to reason. "This barn predates your HOA by over a century. I inherited it. These repairs keep it from falling down." She sneered. "We have aesthetic standards. You need written permission." "Written permission? For a roof patch?" I laughed, but she wasn't amused. "You have 30 days to stop or face fines." First official warning, I brushed her off and went back to work, thinking this was some petty boundary dispute. By midday, the squad cars rolled in. The officers asked me to step down and produce ID. I showed my driver's license and the property deed. "We received a complaint of unauthorized construction," one said. "On my own property?" I replied, incredulous. The officer nodded. "This complaint came from the HOA." I shook my head. "They have no jurisdiction over this barn. It sits on agricultural land, outside the subdivision covenants." He looked to his partner. "We'll investigate. For now, stop work." That citation stung more than any hammer blow. The HOA had weaponized bureaucracy against me. Quiet retaliation. I refused to be bullied. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept working, but I also kept records. I documented Linda's visits, her silver sedan parked on my driveway, her camera trained on my progress. I logged every notice she slipped under my door, fines for non-compliant materials, accusations of property damage, threats of legal action. But I had a secret weapon. I work as the lead infrastructure analyst for the county's municipal utility department. When you spend your days auditing water mains and sewer lines, you learn how to run a forensic investigation. So I began quietly auditing the HOA's utility accounts. The audit, what I uncovered, shocked me. Crestview Heights gated subdivision of 130 homes was still built under an archaic, decades-old discount program, one that should have expired years ago. Instead of paying full residential rates, they were paying roughly 27% less. That shortfall was coming straight out of the county's utility coffers. I compiled a detailed report, household by household, meter numbers, billing statements, discount codes. Then I sent it to the HOA board under my real name, along with a crisp memo, audit results, and recommended rate correction. Panic in the boardroom 3 weeks later. Every homeowner in Crestview Heights opened their mail to find a startling notice. Effective next billing cycle, the discounted rates were revoked and back charges would be applied. The tone was polite, but firm, explaining legal obligations, penalty rates, and a repayment schedule. Chaos ensued. Board meetings, once perfunctory affairs, erupted into screaming matches. The vice president accused each other of financial negligence. Residents thundered questions. Why didn't we know? Who authorized this? And Linda, of course, tried to deflect blame. I was just enforcing common area maintenance. She lied. Board's reckoning at that board meeting I quietly attended as a resident. When Linda tried to steer the conversation back to barn violations, the interim president cut her off. This audit came from one of our own homeowners, Ethan Carter, who is more than qualified. His findings are irrefutable. Seated across the aisle, Linda's scowl twisted to horror as her own forged minutes and embezzled fund requests were exposed. The HOA treasurer pointed out dozens of unauthorized expenses, designer furniture, personal travel, and even landscape contracts awarded to Linda's cousin Dot. By the close of that meeting, Linda had been formally removed as HOA president by a unanimous vote. Her power evaporated. The barn's resurrection with Linda sidelined. Dawns returned to their peaceful rhythm. I finished the barn restoration. Unbolted new shingles gleamed, beams strong and true, fresh paint glowing in the sunrise. Each morning, I sit on the porch with coffee, gazing at the proud silhouette of the barn against the sky. This was more than a repair project. It was a stand for my heritage and a lesson in not letting bullies rewrite your story. I learned that the pen of auditing can be mightier than the sword of authority. Conclusion and call to action. So, next time someone tries to push you off your own land, remember, know your rights, document everything, and don't be afraid to strike back where it hurts in the ledger. If you enjoyed watching me restore not only a barn, but justice itself, hit that like button, share with anyone facing HOA drama, and subscribe for more real-life takedown tales. Because in the end, legacy and truth always stand taller than intimidation. Asterisk.